You sound more like a MAGA, Father. This is a shameful analysis. Nothing wrong with what the bishop said. Asking for mercy during prayers is not wrong. Correct. Asking for mercy is not wrong, and it must be done. But who was she asking mercy from? She was asking it from Trump, when in fact she should have been asking God for mercy. Welcome to the Father Leo Show, where I am dishing out faith, culture, and commentary. And in this episode, I'm going to offer my responses to the comments, questions, and yes, even criticisms left by people who watched the recent episode about Right Reverend Bishop, Episcopalian Bishop Budde, about the inaugural prayer service. But before we jump into it, please make sure you like, subscribe, share, and comment. Please, there are a lot of people who watch the show, but not everyone just hits that subscribe button, and you don't know what that does. It helps us to actually overcome the suppressions of the algorithms that want to really limit the outreach of good Catholic, balanced, pastoral responses to the issues that people are talking about in the world. So please, your subscribing, comment, and liking really does help. You know what else helps? When you're willing to support our mission and join us on patreon.com/thefatherleo show. It's the only way that we can keep our employees working, but also support the other work that I do, and that is to help support people coming out of the prison systems and hopefully giving them an opportunity at employment with my restaurant and my food truck. So you got to know it all goes to one pot, and it helps to support our staff. So thank you for that support. So let's just jump right into it as we discuss the comments, the criticisms, lots of compliments, but you know, I'm always going to focus on the negative just so that I can hopefully turn a negative into a positive. So our first comment comes from Street Pete Feet. A little judgmental, Padre? I won't be subscribing to you. That's why we have and need separation of state and church. The bishop's message was the only one remembered. I am an ex-seminarian who left because of the hen house it was. The Pope called it too much fracciagine in the seminary, so let's not be hypocritical. I don't think it's good to attack other faiths because they can easily attack us Catholics. The bishop's message was brave, unlike yours. Even as a conservative Catholic, I could not in good conscience vote for Trump either. So, Mr. Street Feet Pete, I'm not being judgmental. I'm making commentary on the different ways people prayed. I won't be subscribing to you. I'm sorry that you won't be, because this is the whole point of the show, to help create conversations, even if it's challenging. And what's really sad to me is that you will no longer actually be able to talk to me. I'm happy to talk with you, but this seems more henhouse-ish, to be honest with you, and not very brave of you. I wasn't trying to be brave. I'm trying to be a Catholic priest. I'm not attacking other faiths. And yes, I believe in the separation of church and state. I'm 100% for it. And whether you're a Catholic, conservative, or not, I honestly couldn't care about those labels. I care about the actions of people, including people who claim to be pastoral leaders. And as an ex-seminarian, that goes a long way. You might claim that you left, but you might have actually been kicked out. I have no idea, but I'm willing to have a conversation with you. And by the way, you don't have to subscribe. You can continue to leave comments like this, because guess what? Even your comments help us to overcome the algorithms that want to suppress good Catholic content. Let's go to Orestatores 4261. The only real prayer spoken was from the pastor who spoke from his heart, not memorizing or reading anything beforehand. Jesus said, they who want to worship God must worship him in spirit and in truth, not just lip service or through a handwritten premeditated prayer. In other words, a free-flowing natural communication and yearning coming from the heart. That's what the Lord accepts as true and sincere prayer. That's true. The Lord does accept that as sincere and true prayer, but the Lord also hears formal prayers, including the Our Father, which I'm sure you say. Guess what that is? A memorized written prayer. My critique on Lorenzo Sewell is that when you look at his prayer, it really wasn't from the heart. It was really a reprisal of Martin Luther King's speech. And his gestures were so grand that if I were just simply listen to what he had to say, it would feel a little empty And if you were to watch what he said but not listen to his words, it would look like an over dramatic theater person. And as far as what God accepts as prayer, I'm not quite sure if you know this, but God listens to even the groaning of our heart. So there you go. Let's see here. John Jakesick says, I want to hear your comment on Mr. Trump in 1 year's time. I would dare say you will change your mind on this Trump 2.0. I got your point on the political motives, certain religious leaders. However, sometimes spade needs to be called a spade. And you know what? I actually agree. As if you actually listen to what I said regarding her prayer or her comments, I don't disagree with them. I disagree with the way it was said, because in her intent to speak truth to power and encourage compassion, you could have just simply prayed that. In fact, Father Mann's prayer and Archbishop Cardinal Dolan's prayer said the exact sentiment, but in a more dignified way that caused more turning towards God than really her words really made people turn against each other. It was almost as if she was truly presuming Mr. Trump is going to be compassionate. The fact is, in the past week or so of Mr. Trump's administration, he's done more good for the United States than President Biden had done in the past 4 years, including providing housing for those displaced people from that strange flooding that happened in Asheville. That didn't seem natural. And also, he provided more support for people in California in his 1 hour visit there than the mayor had done in the past couple weeks. So I'll be happy to have a discussion with you, John Jaksic, in 1 year's time about Trump 2.0. All right. Rita R says, you don't know who she voted for. You're assuming. You are 100% right. But based on her past words and policy positions, they 1,000% align with Kamala Harris's woke DEI agenda nonsense. So I am assuming, but it's not an ignorant assumption. All right. There's a big comment here. I don't have the screenshot of the name, but it says here, Father Leo, exactly what is inappropriate about speaking about Jesus's teaching of mercy, compassion, and kindness? And then goes on to cite Matthew 5, 1 through 12. Now when Jesus saw the crowds, and he's basically talking about the Beatitudes. You obviously weren't listening, because I said exactly what was inappropriate about the way she interpreted Jesus's message. Again, she said it in a way that presumed Trump was a fascist, a dictator, and that she also was protecting, in a sense, sinful activity of the LGBTQ community. If you really want to talk about the scriptures, there is a need to talk to this modern world about immorality of practices that are very contrary to Christian teaching, as well as the immorality of trying to enter to a country illegally to do nefarious and dangerous things. And so I believe in the Beatitudes, and we have to live according to them. Thankfully, as Catholics, we actually go a step further and take the words of the Beatitudes and actually turn it into what is known as the corporal works of mercy. All right. There is another one. It's called Pink Moon 1220. Father Leo, I'm disappointed. I agree with Pope Francis when he called that convicted felons' plans of mass deportation of immigration a disgrace. Actually, I don't think he called it a disgrace. I think he called, well, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about here, Pink Moon 1220. As Catholics, we can't turn a blind eye in the face of evil. I pray as we, a nation, we wake up. Separation of families is not okay. As Christians, we are called to be more like Christ, love our neighbor. Instead of making America great again, he is making America hate again. So again, it just sounds to me like your politics have become your religion, and you're just picking and choosing what you think the Pope said. Because sadly, making America great again is simply saying that in America's greatness, which is founded on godliness, godly principles, and goodness, I don't think, he makes America hate again. Who made America hate each other was the previous administration, who did everything possible to try to divide this country and to try to get rid of laws in favor of identity politics. So it's kind of sad. John John A. or Jonah or John A. 1495 writes, "You should be ashamed as a Catholic priest who thinks that treating immigrants like subhuman is in line with Catholic Church teaching. That lady truly used her voice as a prophet to denounce what is wrong. Bishops and priests have a great opportunity in their hands to show if they really are shepherds or hired man in this difficult time for migrants, their flock." So not quite sure, the syntax in that second part made no sense to me. But I'm not ashamed as a Catholic priest, because I do treat immigrants with respect, including immigrants who have come illegally. I actually give a lot of charity to a lot of agencies that actually support people, whether they're documented or not. So I'm not ashamed at all. I'm very proud as a Catholic that we actually stand against illegal activity because it causes harm to people. And you're right, we have to treat all immigrants with respect. I don't treat them as subhumans. So I think John A. 1495, your assumption of me is 1,000% wrong. All right, there's a very long comment here. I don't know if I'm going to read all of this from Faith D4E. "Father Leo, with all due respect, as a fellow Catholic as well, stick to the faith instead of delving into politics." Okay, so I'm just going to read only that, because that's where faith, I just think that your faith needs to grow up a little bit. Really grow it a little bit and realize that I'm not trying to talk about politics. I'm trying to talk about praying. How do you pray for the president? That's the whole point. And then I looked at the different ways people prayed and just observed or commented out loud which ones were, in my opinion, more effective than the other. So with all due respect, I am talking about faith. And with all due respect, I think you need to talk about how the politics is affecting your faith. All right. Let's see here. I'm going to keep going. This other comment, Sam St. George, "Catholics, question mark, exclamation point, question mark, are you Christians? I do not think do, because you worship the Catholic Church, while we are Christian Roman Orthodox. Notice that we define ourselves as Christian because we follow the Christ and not establishment cult church." All right, so a lot of typo here, but you have to understand that Roman Catholics are Christians. And as far as the reason why we are called Roman Catholics is because it denotes a place where the faith spread, and also a history in a period of time when you could actually practice your faith. And the word Catholic just simply means fullness of spirit or universal. So call yourselves Roman Catholic. You are calling yourselves Christians with actually a start, a historical start. And it started with St. Peter, who was the vicar of Christ. So for all those who are Roman Catholic, don't let comments like this sway you. You are not only true Christians, you are the most authentic Christians. And sadly, when people call themselves Orthodox, I love that term as well, but that really is more of an attitude, not a denomination, because there are many different orthodoxes, whether it be in Syria, whether it be in Jerusalem, whether it be Russian, whether it be, Greek, and they don't all agree with each other on a lot of things. So it's more than anything a mindset and not necessarily a denomination. And that mindset is oftentimes rooted in culture. That's why you have Greek Orthodox versus another Russian Orthodox. Those two Orthodoxes are Christian, but they are more culturally designated. When we say Roman Catholic. It's because at one point Rome was considered the center of the world. And so it kind of meant a universal faith. So anyway, there you go. Let's continue here. Kenneth, 7862. Father Leo, you are a nice guy, but you are pro-Trump. Really? Again, I'm more policy than anything. If a person is not Catholic, that is a problem for you. No, not at all. But I firmly believe that the Catholic Church has the fullness of truth, and I want to share it with others. I'm a New Yorker, so we know this guy. He has no belief in God and attends no house of worship. And frankly, I kind of don't care. He is a rapist, racist, convicted felon, con man, fraud, draft dodger, etc. Okay. These are things that we've been hearing ever since he was in public office. Prior to that, he was loved by all. So I honestly find that this name calling is, number one, unsubstantiated. Listen, you can be accused of so many things these days, and it all depends on what the media wants to stick. So your ad hominem attack of Mr. Trump is something that, frankly, I don't care about, and I don't think he cares about. He's still the president of the United States. So I don't care if you're a New Yorker either. I have found some of the people who live in New York to be the most close-minded, island-thinking people I've ever met in my life. You're the biggest, one of the most powerful cities in the world, but some of the people who are the most New Yorker people are so close-minded and limited. Your opinion, therefore, is not what I'm looking for, because guess what? The little county in the Midwest doesn't care about New York necessarily. And it seems that you don't care about them either. I care about the United States. I need to be a little bit more global thinking. All right. Let's continue on here. And I'll just take like a few more because there are a lot of comments. Here's one that I don't really appreciate. And it's coming from Early Bird Catches the Worm 8598. That's funny. I kind of like that. It cites 1 Corinthians 14 number 34. Women are not allowed to speak in churches or even be given authority over men. If allowed, such rubbish things happen. She doesn't have the right to be addressed as bishop. I don't agree with that, because while that's true, that was in Corinth. And unless you actually go to Corinth and try to understand the je ne sais quoi, the Sitzenleben, not the je ne sais quoi, but the Sitzenleben, the situation in which Paul was writing, it's kind of taken out of context here. So women are allowed to speak in church. I mean, the Blessed Mother should have a right to speak in church. But in this case, this is their denomination. They choose to ordain female bishops. She has the right to speak there if she wants. So there you have it. Frances Diaz, she writes, "You sound more like a MAGA, Father. This is a shameful analysis. Nothing wrong with what the bishop said. Asking for mercy during prayers is not wrong." Correct. Asking for mercy is not wrong, and it must be done. But who was she asking mercy from? She was asking it from Trump, when in fact she should have been asking God for mercy. You know, when Cardinal Dolan said his prayer, and if you read his prayer again, just listen to the last part of that episode, you're going to hear how he basically challenged that we need to pray, we need to be humble, we need to be compassionate. We ask God to guide these people who are in public office. You see, that's the big difference, is that we're constantly trying to get our politicians to be our God. That's not what prayer is about. We need to ask God to be God of the politicians. And when that's the case, then we can have more peace and justice. And then the final one is Douglas Nicole 104. He writes, "This is why I stopped going to Mass. The bishop said what needed to be said. Jesus would have said the same thing to Trump. This priest is a Trump-loving man." Well, Douglas, number one, then start going to the Episcopalian Church. Go ahead. Start going to their version of mass or their services. At least you're going. But I don't think you will, because I think you're using anything as an excuse to not actually go to a church, because that church is going to challenge you. And listen, again, what this Bishop Budde had to say was in its intent fine. If we were to take a look at the intent that she claims, it's fine. How she said it was a fail, because it didn't lead to prayer. It led to confusion and consternation. And as far as being a Trump-loving man, Douglas, am I not supposed to love all people, including Mr. Trump? Those are my thoughts. There were a ton of other comments, and so I would wish I could offer all of them a response, but I can't. So we're just simply going to end it at this. But you have to know that I do have myself and my team review as much of these comments as possible, so that you know we actually care about you. That's my objective in these shows, to actually provide a truly balanced pastoral approach. Now, some people would say that I'm imbalanced because you think that I'm voting completely for Trump, but he's not my savior. He's just a politician who's going to be gone in 4 years, but whose legacy and whose laws, as an executive to the laws, can actually help America. And just in these past few days, or even past couple of weeks of Trump's presidency, he's done actually a lot of good, and you cannot deny it. He's brought hostages home. He's provided houses for homeless people from the Asheville, Western Carolina disastrous floods. He's provided more support for the people in California's wildfires. He's actually found about, 80,000 children who were lost under the previous, I don't know if it's 80,000. I think that's the number of children who were lost by President Biden's office in the immigration debacle of his presidency. But he's found a large number of them and is accounting for them, and made sure that they are safe and not being trafficked. He's provided a job back for the military who have been released illegally because they wouldn't take the jab. In trying to challenge the Panama Canal, he's actually putting America's interest in making sure that it remains a place where where shipping companies are not going to be taken advantage of. He's actually brought a more of a conversation between Russia and Ukraine. And this was all in just the first few days of his office. You can hate the man because of what the media says, but you also have to judge by fruits. And so this is what I'm encouraging us all to do, because I can also challenge Bishop Budde and ask, well, what is she doing besides just simply talking about the immigrants and transgenders? I can say that she provided a burial place for Matthew Shepard, who was brutally murdered for being gay. That is a beautiful thing. I can give her the credit where credit is due. I can give her credit for being a voice that wants to challenge presidents. Good for you. Learn how to do it in a better, non-political way, especially if you're doing it within the context of prayer. I could have the balanced sense to compliment people when they've done well, and also to take a critical look for the sake of building up rather than destructive criticism for someone who's doing wrong. And I think we all need to get past our own biases in order to do that. So hopefully this helps. Let's get past the bias, because a lot of the negative comments are from people who probably voted for Kamala and are just upset. And again, there were more positive comments, but I just focused on the challenging ones because I think that's what people need to hear. And they want to know that they are being heard, even if I disagree. And even if you disagree with me, at least I heard you loud and clearly. Because that's what the show is all about, being able to dish out faith, culture, and commentary. So make sure you like, subscribe, share, and comment. And even if you comment and don't subscribe, you're still helping our algorithm. So do it all and help us to make sure that we can have a faith that can be expressed publicly on the internet. And then also support us on Patreon. If it is so your desire, you can support us at any level, even the free ones can subscribe to patreon.com/thefatherleo show. But if you do support us, you get access to some pretty great perks and also really good content. So thank you for listening. God bless you. And as always, stay hungry for God.